Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the 10 Golden Rules of Internet Marketing for Law Firms podcast. Super excited today. You can probably already tell we have a rock star of the legal strategy and marketing and legal community. Ben Glass, welcome to the 10 Golden Rules podcast.
Jay, man, thanks for having me on. Before we went live, we were comparing air temperatures in our respective cities. And I said it's bad, but you're in South Florida and it's got to be worse.
Yeah. If you're listening to this some other time, it's late August 2024, and we're smeltering down here. So Ben, his law firm has a great conference called Great Legal Marketing, has a mastermind, like multiple books. We're going to get into all that, but tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you get to be a rock star?
Oh, what a great, I wish my kids could hear you ask that question, Jay. So, I crossed over, I will cross over 41 years of practicing law in October, around the time of our conference. I had a very typical beginning from undergrad, where I played soccer on scholarship at William & Mary, came up to Northern Virginia to go to George Mason Law School, which was, and this is a point for young lawyers or young wannabe lawyers, like Mason was provisionally accredited by the ABA. Nobody knew Mason. And Jay, I got to tell you something that will shock you. I recently found online the course catalog for the year I went. So I went in 1980. That's right. And the course catalog had the tuition. This is going to make people sick. Jay, the tuition was $1,100 for the whole year.
And you probably took student loans to pay for it.
I took some loans because I wasn't working. My wife was working for I think $15,000 a year or something.
That was a lot of money back then.
We lived in a 2-bedroom little apartment, or a 1-bedroom little apartment. And I was lucky, Jay, when I was in law school, I got hooked up for law clerkship with one of the great trial lawyers in Northern Virginia, Bill Arts. And I could have, I liked tax law in law school, and I liked this litigation stuff. And Bill was a litigator and had a good personal injury practice. And so out of law school, I joined Bill and several of his partners. They were forming a new law partnership, and stayed with the various iterations of that firm because it changed a bit over time. For about the first 12 years, had the entrepreneurial seizure. I had a growing family. Eventually, we ended up with 9 children, 4 adopted from China. But there was a time when, Jay, I was coaching 3 soccer teams near my house, and the office was not near my house. In Northern Virginia, the commute can be very variable. So for that reason, because I wanted to simplify my life, I said, I'm getting good results. How hard could it be to start a law firm? So I left, took some cases, had some money, had some cases for a while. And then I figured out, Jay, I didn't know anything about running a law firm. I was a good lawyer, but I didn't know anything about acquiring cases, managing people, getting good talent in. And so that was a struggle. Several years in, I discovered, our mutual friend, Dan Kennedy. I was on a mailing list. I got his product, Magnetic Marketing, which was for all businesses except lawyers. But when I went through the product, when I went through the product, I man, I don't even understand half the words Dan's using here. I don't understand the concepts, but I saw enough there. If I could figure this stuff out, this would probably change my life. Because I was, like many small biz owners and many lawyers, I didn't know how to differentiate myself in the market. Jay, you wouldn't have had a job then because it was the pre-internet, right? There wasn't even websites yet. It was right at the dawn. I mean, I had a CompuServe email address. It was at CompuServe with a whole bunch of numbers and a dot and a whole bunch of numbers after that. So,
hey, believe it or not, I'm older than I look. My first job, we had a fax machine, and we were super advanced technology. I was with a regional agency, and our client was McDonald's restaurants. So we had to get a fax machine.
Yeah.
And I don't know, what was it, 1985 in Winnipeg, Canada.
Okay. And so for folks who are listening to this, that fax machine, you had to install a new line, and they charged you more for the quote fax line, even though it was nothing but a telephone line. And then Jay and I are going to riff here for a moment in history, but we had modems and like a 300 baud modem and a 1200. Oh my gosh, you have a 2400 baud modem. You must be really good. And you had to unplug your phone to plug in your modem to talk to your computer. So
Get on the
back in
internet,
the
sure.
days, AOL and all that stuff. So what Dan taught me was this: is look around and see what everyone else is doing and saying to the market, and try to find a different message. So I was doing personal injury cases. Of course, a bazillion personal injury lawyers back then. We were in the yellow pages. I was not on TV or on radio, but I did go to the library and I studied, because back then they had all of the regional yellow pages for our region, DC, Washington, DC area. And I looked at the messages. I just wrote down the headline messages, and most of the headlines were name of firm, but the other ones, the other three were, hey, we're aggressive, no fee if no recovery, and some version of like, we're the best, right? And I came up with a USP, or unique selling proposition, that was a little bit different, which was, if you've been in an accident and before you talk to a lawyer, talk to the adjuster, or sign any forms, like, let's get our free book. And so that started to change the way we showed up in the marketplace.
That's great.
And allowed me to capture more leads who were calling the office, because we were getting name, address, and mailing them the book, things like this. Again, this is people who are young lawyers today, as we do this in 2024, they can't imagine. Like, everything is so fast today. We've got 24/7 advertising out there, both digitally and otherwise, or traditional. We've got 24/7 phone answering, chat bots. And if you don't respond, like, this, right? Because you've studied it. If you don't respond right away, like, the client is on to the next lawyer. Well, it was different back in the day. It was different because the only way you could talk to a lawyer was basically by showing up at the office and having a consultation. So it was a lot. You could make more mistakes and still survive. Then the internet came along, and
Can I just call a timeout? Like, I want to spend 1 minute on that,
yeah,
because creating your personal brand message was important then, and is mission critical today. And I had a couple thoughts around that. First of all, you created a book, and it was like, your message was, hey, before you talk to the insurance company, at least get my free book. And that was a classic Dan Kennedy, like, marketing magnetism, like a marketing magnet is probably how he called it, was like a book. It was a great
lead gen magnet, as lead generation magnet, for sure.
And my 10 golden rules, which I wrote 20 years ago, which is, what was it, 2002, 2003. So slightly after that, but the same concept, which is create a golden rule number 3, create a UVP. And a UVP is like a free book, a free ebook, a free calculator, a car accident calculator we have on some sites. And the concept is improve conversions and get some engagement, get people to opt in for something, get them on your list, your lead list, or your mailing list. And especially back in those days, like today, we can pretty much figure out who went to our website. There are some tools that can actually tell you who went to your website, or you can do remarketing to them. There's a lot of different, more advanced tools. But back then, you really had to give someone something of valuable, like that marketing magnet, the unique value proposition.
100%.
So that worked really well, I'm sure. And also you became the author, right?
That was the whole thing. Like, I can remember, Jay, when I first saw another lawyer had written a book. He was in the estate planning space, and he had a book. I'm like, holy cow, that's really cool. Like, you're an author of a book, right? And still today, Jay, most people think, if they see that someone has authored a book, they think that's pretty cool. The author must know something. Now, it's tons easier to write and to get books produced today than it was back then. But the point that you and I are making is that the principles don't change. You have to show up differently. So you can choose to play, Jay, you can choose to play in the same pond that everyone else is playing. And in the PI space, that pond is usually some version of, you've been in a crash, we can get you cash, and we're aggressive, no fee of no recovery still. And there's players who can win in that pond, but they tend to be the ones who can spend the most money. So the rest of us who are not number one, number two spender in a market, we have to figure out different ways to get attention, to grow a tribe. Once I have your attention, Jay, I want your attention for life, because hopefully you won't get into an accident, but you'll know people who will need somebody like me in Northern
Amen.
Virginia. And so that's how eventually, as Kennedy saw what I was doing in my practice, he said, you should teach this. And he was really the instigator for Great Legal Marketing, which is about 20 years old now. And Great Legal Marketing was one of the first organizations out there that was devoted to the business side of law. Again, in the very beginning, Jay, you may not even know this, it was teaching personal injury lawyers how to advertise better. That really was all it was, because that's what I was. But then we attracted family lawyer, the bankruptcy lawyer, the criminal defense lawyer. They go, will this work for me? I said, yeah, of course it'll work for you. And so that was like the next version of Great Legal Marketing. And then it became, all right, we're solving the lead gen and conversion and sales problem. Now there's other problems that need to be solved in a business. How do you scale? How do you hire? How do you develop culture and processes and systems? And so that's what we are today. So today, Great Legal Marketing is really for those lawyers, Jay, who are not spending tens of thousands of dollars a month on either paid digital or paid traditional advertising. They're doing grassroots marketing. They're building, by and large, they're building an impact in the community, and they are nurturing everyone who knows them, so that, again, Jay, we hope that you don't get an accident, but darn it, if one of your friends does, and you're in Northern Virginia, or your friend is in Northern Virginia, we want to be the one whose name is top of your list to make that referral. So I think what would be interesting for people to know is we spend zero money on paid digital advertising, paid ads, zero, no Facebook, no pay-per-click. Our organic traffic is great, but more importantly, because I've been here for 41 years, and my son Brian is turning 41, because literally, Jay, he was born in between the bar exam and me getting sworn in. So we have a strong
surprise.
Yeah.
Sure, income requirements just
Here's
don't.
our number one. Yeah. And so we have a very good foothold here in Northern Virginia, in particular in the market. Like we tell people, like, our Rolodex is big. We only know two things: automobile, like personal injury cases, and really it's only automobile and dog bites, really, because Virginia is 100% contributory negligence state. So trip and falls, slip and falls don't fly really well here. And then I developed about 20 years ago this niche in ERISA, long-term disability and life insurance cases, which we're a regional force here. Like nobody in the mid-Atlantic where we are files more cases, handle more cases than we do. And you can go verify that all on Pacer.
Great.
So we don't know how to do wills, but we know who to send you to. And that's our marketing position.
Fantastic. So I just want to, we're touching on Great Legal Marketing, and it's coming up. So if you're a young attorney, a small firm, a medium-sized firm, I mean, this is an awesome conference. I've been 2 or 3 years now speaking in Phoenix this year. So I'll give you the dates. It's the 3rd and 4th of October. It's in Phoenix this year. Great Legal Marketing that we're talking about is a conference. It's also a mastermind. I don't want you to tell us which one came first, but tell us a little bit about what's happening in Phoenix this year for folks who still have a chance to go. Obviously, if you're listening to this in 2025, check the dates for 2025.
Yeah, so this is really, it's almost the annual reunion of our tribe. By and large, it is our members who gather every year for 2 or 3 days to hear from top experts like you.
Thank you.
To be able to, Jay, just get out of the office and turn off the darn cell phone and the laptop and think about their business and be surrounded by people, because for any problem that a lawyer has, Jay, there's going to be someone in that room. They might be the one on the stage, or they might be the one sitting next to you at dinner, or sitting next to you in your row at the conference, who has already solved that problem. And that's as big a reason. Like it is the gathering of entrepreneurial lawyers who are giving, who are open to thinking about new ways of building a great life, because that's really what GLM is all about, is build a great life. Let's use a law firm as a vehicle for that. Okay. Let's create wealth, but let's also create happiness and great families, right? And it is as much of that, the conversations that go on in the audience, as it is the conversations, which are excellent, that go on from the stage. We have in Great Legal Marketing, several levels of membership in our two highest mastermind levels. We have one mastermind, basically lawyers trying to get through 7 figures of top line revenue. And the other one is basically lawyers who are trying to get up to about $5 million in online revenue, or in top line revenue. And so they meet for, in total, a day. So we meet 4 times a year. One of those times is at our summit each year. We've got breakout groups on one morning, so it'll be like 9 things going on in 3 hours. So that can be a little hectic. We record the whole event, and mostly it is a reunion because, it is unlike other traditional lawyer conferences, because we're not really talking about the law per se. We're not talking about how do you cross-examine, and there's a lot of great places to go for that. We're talking about how do you build something for yourself? How do you get a great team in there and to a place where everybody will thrive and be happy. So that's what's going on. The one thing, I don't know when your podcasts will go out, but every year, Jay, we try to make available some space for lawyers who are like running a law firm, and maybe they're in their first couple of years of running the firm. And so we've got some scholarship money for them, particularly if they're out in the West or near Phoenix, where we'll be.
Oh, that's
if anybody's
awesome.
listening to this and wants to, you've got a young firm and you're the owner, we'd love to get you into our room, because you will be impressed. Again, not just by the guys and gals on the stage, Jay. You'll be impressed by the quality of the person who's sitting next to you.
Yeah, I want a couple of things I'd love to mention. You talked about the family aspect, and as a matter of fact, just with one of the experts in the industry, and she moved from working for a big corporate legal entity to working for a consulting firm, and she was asking which trade shows, and tell me about the landscape. And I said, GLM, I'm speaking, and I'm looking very much forward to the event. We're participants, and we have a booth, and a bunch of our team will be out there. And I said, the nicest thing about GLM is it's really it feels like a family. And don't worry if you don't know anyone in the family. Come out there, you'll probably know some folks. But everybody's like super warm and inviting, and it's like the warmest of all the conferences.
I appreciate that.
And like if you go to National Trial Lawyers, part of it is like there's like 3,000 people, and it's big, and it's corporate, and it's in Miami, and the trade show is huge. And, but Great Legal Marketing, I think, because Ben and Brian, who you all, if you haven't heard the podcast with Brian, or Brian also spoke at our event, TGR Live, and he was fantastic, by the way. So check out the interview with Brian as well. But it's that family, because you all are a family, and also like your mastermind members love you guys and love each other, and so I think part of it is like that family feel. And the other thing you mentioned, it's like the sessions are great, the breakouts are great. Like I remember 2 awesome presentations. Bill Biggs talked about culture and absolutely blew me away, and I grabbed him right after. I said, I've got to interview you for my podcast. And he went from my podcast to my speaking live, and he was a keynote on day 2 of our conference. And then the other one that blew me away was Charlie Mann talking about his I call it the ground game, guerrilla marketing. And so that's another great edition of our podcast. So look, without further ado, if y'all haven't been to greatlegalmarketing.com yet, go to greatlegalmarketing.com. Check it out. See if you can work it into your calendar. And as Ben said, there's scholarships if you're, a small firm just starting out. But you've got a new book, and this is really exciting. Like, you co-wrote a book with Dan Kennedy, one of the heroes and legends of the marketing industry. He's on definitely on the Hall of Fame top 10 list. Tell us about your new book, and there's some great content you're going to share.
Yeah, I'll put it up here on the screen. It's the No BS Time Management for Entrepreneurs, 4th edition. And this is great. So Dan is my mentor, and many years ago, I already recounted the story, how I hooked up with him. And about 20 years ago, the first edition of No BS Time Management for Entrepreneurs came out. And I remember, Jay, I was reading it on a vacation, and I'm like, holy cow, like I didn't even know some of these strategies existed. They went to the payphone because it was a while ago, and I called my office. I said,
You might have to explain what a payphone is.
yeah, quarters and stuff, right? Or maybe a credit card number I punch in. And I said to them, look, first thing we do is no more unplanned phone calls, right? Everything is going to be scheduled. And my team said, that'll never work. It'll piss people off. And it really changed our lives because what lawyers are paid, Jay, like we are hired to be creative and to think deeply about our clients, either their opportunity or their challenges with the law. And in the old days, like before I read this book, like every time the phone rang, it was especially when we were very small, if it was a new lead, like, oh, here it's someone calling about a PI case, or I was doing medical malpractice cases back then as well. Like, oh, let's just interrupt what I'm doing and get on the phone. And you didn't know, is it going to be a 5-minute call? Is it going to be a 45-minute call? So we started to change that. Dan invited me to the 4th edition for this reason. It was just about a year ago. He sent me a fax because Dan only communicates by fax and by phone call. He says, I'm going to write the 4th edition. Would you like to be a part of it and co-author? And I go, yeah, I'm really busy. I'm getting ready for my conference. We're getting ready to go out to Funnel Hacking Live. Busy time. I said, yeah, I can. Like, how much time do I have? He goes, 30 days. 30 days. 30 days. So, but I did it. I immediately took a really close look at the 3rd edition, and I faxed Dan the next over the next couple of days. So here's some ideas. And what I have is a slightly different angle than Dan does. I've got a large family. I've got employees. Dan really hasn't had employees in a long time. He said, I asked you because you're a busy guy. I do CrossFit, I referee, and I run the law firm. I'm practicing attorney still and run Great Legal Marks. So we get a lot of stuff done, plus the 9 kids. And so it was my honor to be able to write for Dan. Another funny story is I submitted my articles, and then he goes, well, can you write a technology chapter? Well, I was in Orlando for our event. So I'm getting up at 4:00 in the morning writing a technology chapter. I said, Dan, the technology chapter is going to be kind of small because I believe that everyone else should be using technology and just letting me know what it says, right? Because I have a phone. So this is a strategy, right? There's no work email on my phone. My phone does not ding, vibrate, buzz. So sometimes I show up at home without the milk. Like Sandy says, oh, can you get some milk? And I miss it because I haven't checked my my messenger app there. There's very few people that have that phone number can get through. In fact, if you try to call my phone and you're not on my list, it just goes immediately to voicemail. Anyway, but here's the point. Here's the point that Dan and I make in the book, Jay, is that when you're running a law firm, you are the racehorse. Like, not only do your clients depend on you being all in, but so do all your employees. I mean, you are providing jobs, they're paying taxes, they're getting hopefully a great place to come to work. And if the lawyer is all stressed out because he or she does not have a good hold on time, right? We guard our wallets, but we let people suck time right away from us. Then nothing else can run optimally. So we say, you are holding the world up on your shoulders. Accept that responsibility. That's a responsibility you took on when you decided to become an entrepreneur rather than working for someone else. And there's a place for everybody in the world, right? We need people who work for hourly rate, and we need people who are entrepreneurs and who are creating the new ideas in the world. And so the book is filled with a number of strategies and ideas to protect you so that you can work, Jay, in your zone of genius, as Dan Sullivan would say. It starts with really understanding what your time is worth. And that does not mean dividing what you bring in by 40 hours a week, because Jay, nobody gets 40 productive hours a week, right? We get maybe 6. So like really figuring that out, shedding stuff that's below your pay grade, shedding stuff that you're not good at. Because Jay, for everything that you do, running 10 golden rules, but maybe it's a little bit below your pay grade, or maybe you think you have to do it, but you're not really like great at it. There's somebody in the world, Jay, who would love to do that for you, to free you up to do what? Exactly. To creatively think about your clients, and in your case, their success journey with website, digital advertising, all of that stuff. So
We
That's
actually
the
just went through the
sign.
4 quadrants in
Yeah,
EOS.
yeah, we told you.
And we'll talk about EOS in a minute, but it's basically like the top 2 quadrants are things you're good at that you like doing, things you're good at that you don't like doing, things you don't like doing that you're not good at, and things you don't like doing that you're good at. So it's
Yeah.
like figuring out things, you want to spend your time in that top quadrant of things you like doing and you're good at it. And is that the genius zone? Is that another way of
That
describing
really
it?
is the zone of genius. Yeah. And look, it's when if you're just starting out with your firm and it's you and one assistant, as it was for me way back in the day, that's hard. But I'll tell you what is easier today than it was when I started, Jay, is the quick availability of somebody any place in the world who can do a lot of things that you and I probably grew up doing ourselves because it just wasn't as easy to find somebody. So the law firm's got about 23 employees. We now have, because we just hired them, we have 7 people working for us in the Philippines who are fantastic teammates for us, who are making more money working for us than they would in their local economy. And all 7 are working in their zone of genius, doing things that, we could do probably, but they're better at it and they're focused on their thing. And then we've got a
How do
great,
you figure out their zone of genius? Like, do you use a tool?
well, that's a great question. The clearer you are, here's the question you asked, Jay. If this person, just this avatar person, walked into my life, what qualities would he or she have to help me do the thing I don't like doing or I'm not very good at? All right. And so we start there. The clearer that you and I, Jay, are as entrepreneur leaders on who it is we want to see walking through our door, either as a client, right? Because that's all about marketing, or as a teammate, the better it's going to be, because now we send that message into the world. And we rather than running stupid ads that say, wanted part-time paralegal, can multitask, which is like describes every paralegal in the whole world, right? Tell them exactly who you are, what you do, who does well here, who doesn't do well here. You're still going to make mistakes. The pool of people who apply are going to be smaller, but you're going to vastly increase the chance when you have good communications like this, that you're going to find that person who just lights you up and your work lights them up. And I'll tell you, Jay, that your law firm becomes unstoppable when people who are coming to work for you like coming to work and they believe in the work that you do and the good that you do. If you don't have that, it is like running a ship through the bay and you've got 5 anchors hanging over. It's very hard to be the best you can be. Now, this ain't easy. It takes work. But the point that I would make is the clearer that you are, Jay, this is the same point we make in marketing. The clearer you are at who your perfect avatar client is, so that when we're creating web copy, for example, we're writing to that client, the more likely it is we're going to attract that client, right? And the happier we both are going to be. That's the thing. Client's happy because I got a lawyer who understands what my problem is, and lawyer's happy because he or she has the client that they're looking for. And then we should put that on rinse and repeat. And you do that for your employees too.
By the way, I had a thought a minute ago, and I just don't want to forget it, because you asked me before we started recording, you said that everybody's trying to figure out what is the new important thing that they've got to figure out for marketing. And you were hoping I'd share that. So I'm going to give you the sneak preview, okay?
Let's do that, because your presentation last year was awesome. And I think that, so many people, Jay, come to our conference because they want to hear trusted voice like yours talking about the digital space. So what's there for us?
Well, we think we figured out an algorithm for a brand new section of Google. And I wrote one of my recent webinars, it's been really popular, is called the 6 parts of Google. So the first 5 we all know, right? The Google screen, local service ads, right at the top of Google, Google Maps, pay-per-click, Google SEO. I include YouTube as the 5th part of Google. Yes. Google owns YouTube. It's the 2nd biggest website in the world. There's more searches on YouTube than there is by a wide margin than Yahoo or Bing. but there's a sixth part of Google, which is called AI overviews. And
Yes.
AI overviews is Google's answers like a chat GPT question. So we're starting to see them for like, how do I pick a car accident attorney? So the short version of the answer to your question, what's new and what I'm going to talk about at GLM is how do you get in those listings? And one of the key things is you want your website to be helpful. You want to answer questions. So a lot of what we do with our clients is we film videos with the clients answering questions. How do you pick a car accident attorney? What do I do after a motorcycle accident? What's the difference between, if I get hit by a driver with insurance or a driver with no insurance? Is my insurance going to have to pay for the car repairs? And if you start answering those questions and Google sees your website is helpful, you can come up in this brand new section called AI overviews. It's essentially like Google's chat GPT on Google searches. You're probably just starting to see them. They're just rolling it out.
Let me give your listeners a plus on that, something that we have started doing. So we record all the calls coming in and going out in Virginia. Virginia's a one-party recording state. We then run the intake calls through a chat that we have created that does two things. Number one, it evaluates my team on the application of our scripts to the call. Number two, it listens, Jay, very carefully to what you just said. What questions is the prospect actually asking? Because lawyers think we know, but we're usually not involved in a lot of these intake calls, right? It then itemizes those questions, and we send those questions off to the marketing team. And we have a library. So easy to do in order to help your customers move forward in this AI overview.
That's awesome. So
most people are not, most
calls are
lawyers are
recorded.
guessing.
The AI is, transcribing them and determining the questions and answers.
Yeah.
And putting that in the library. I love that.
And judging and helping us evaluate our intake team. Did they use empathy? Did they reinforce the sale? Did they talk about how good we are, which is all part of our script?
And it's going on the website. Like, are these creating question and answer blogs as well?
Yes, it is then helping to direct, because here's the thing. Everybody has limited time and money resources. And so we're always, what GLM is really good at, Jay, is helping lawyers figure, where do I spend my next dollar? Where do I spend my next hour? So it's helping to direct both couple things. A, the Q&A that's on the Google local profile. But B, we ask ourselves, do we have a blog or a story on this question or not? If we don't, it goes into the list, particularly if we're hearing that question more than once. And again, Jay, lawyers think they know what questions the potential prospects are asking, but I would suggest testing and listening. Like if you're going to, the old days we would listen to the call. Now we can read a transcript. Now we can read an AI summary of the transcript just to get that information, right? And pass it on in part to the marketing team.
I love it because I actually have in one of my presentations, I have a picture of like the cranky old receptionist. And I joke like her name's Griselda or something, but we put a clipboard beside her desk and we say, write down all the questions you get. But you've advanced that into the AI world. So the AI is listening to the calls, summarizing questions and answers, and giving it to your marketing team. I'm gonna steal that one, okay, Ben?
You can steal it. Yeah, we've been sharing that with our mastermind members, the exact prompt, and the prompt is a work in progress. And so, when Ben shares stuff into the world, only thing I ask is that you make it better, and then you share back some stuff with me or the next person, right? That's another way that lawyers, especially lawyers that serve the consumer market, this is how we make the world better.
Well, I have a rule of sharing, and it came from jokes and recipes. Do you know the rule of threes in jokes and recipes? So
tell me,
like, if you tell me a joke, the first time I tell a joke, I'm gonna say, hey, Ben Glass told me this great joke. And then the second time I'm gonna say, hey, my friend, this lawyer told me this joke. And the third time I'm gonna say, I heard a joke. And the fourth time it's my joke. And it's the same with recipes, because like you make the recipe, by the fourth time you've customized the joke and recipe so much that it's hardly recognizable. Like my uncle, I made him his Caesar salad a few years ago that he gave me the recipe and taught me how to make. He's like, this is not my Caesar salad. I'm like, what do you mean? It's your recipe. He's like, first of all, there's no anchovies. Well, I don't like anchovies. The cheese was wrong. The vinegars were wrong. Like it was completely different. So I'll be giving you credit the first time we download the AI calls and turn it into marketing content. But by your conference in 6 weeks, it's going to be my strategy. Okay.
And it'll be better. And see, that's the thing. It'll be better. And you'll share it with somebody, one of your clients probably, and they'll make it better, right? Because there's people who are just better at this idea generation than we are.
Anyways, look, people are probably enjoying this. And if you're enjoying it and you're watching on YouTube, give us a comment and shout out and thank Ben and myself. We're going all over the place, but I'm going to transition a little bit. I want to go back in time a little bit because you're probably one of the best people to ask this question. And I often ask this question. What are some great strategies for a young attorney? They're just getting started in business. What are lessons you would, advice you would share to a young attorney?
I think the number one question to learn how to ask is, what can I do for you? First, Zig Ziglar, can have everything in this world I want if I help enough other people get what they want. I would say number two is to be very curious. So, when you meet somebody, you're a young lawyer, you meet someone at a bar conference or, whatever, it's like, stop talking about yourself. That's not very interesting. Like if I met Jay at a conference, I'd be asking Jay, tell me how you found this work. What's your biggest problem? How have you solved this? What do you think is coming down the pike in terms of SEO and what we've just talked about, right, with Google? And I would be very curious. And you would walk away from that conversation, Jay, feeling really good about yourself because you talked about yourself, which human beings like to do. But I just interviewed you. I interviewed you for 30 minutes or whatever to find that. And then, I think the thing I did when I started, and my friend of mine, we were going historical recently on a call. We both have grown up in the law 41 years together. And when I started my practice, Jay, one of the first things I did was I called up my local PI competitors, but they were my friends. I said, dudes, and again, pre-internet, why don't we meet every month? We'll share the pizza cost, bring your cases. Let's talk about cases. Let's talk about strategies. Let's talk about claims adjusters, and let's just share. And so I didn't even know what a mastermind group was, Jay. I actually created a mastermind group. And even today, we have in our mastermind group in Great Legal Marketing, I'm in Northern Virginia, we have now 4 Northern Virginia personal injury lawyers in our groups. We freely share. And so my message to young lawyers is, look, at the end of the day, there are no secrets. And the most important person in the room is the person you see in the mirror, right? So it's all about whether you're going to go and do something, but do not be afraid to be the first to share something Your life will be more fun. You will actually learn more by doing that. And I believe that when you do that, the universe sends back stuff to you that you will capture it to be able to make your life better. So there's a couple of things I would say for young lawyers. The challenge today is, Jay, I had a choice between Yellow Pages and writing a book and, starting the first website. I went to a class on how to write HTML, actually.
You and me both, right?
And today there's just so many choices. I think what I'm really good at, and I'm open to talking to young lawyers all the time, is if I learn a little bit about you, Jay, and where you're trying to take the practice, I can help you figure out, where do I go spend my next hour? Where do I spend my next hour? Because there's so many choices, but not every choice is going to be good for you today.
We left a couple things hanging out there. So one of them was the difference between GLM, the conference, GLM, the masterminds. Talk a little bit about the masterminds, the power of masterminds, the GLM masterminds.
Sure. So, Napoleon Hill made the concept of the mastermind popular in Think and Grow Rich. The mastermind is really about when more than 2 are gathered together, the force that comes out of the thinking, idea, objection, what if we do this, is greater than any one person or any 2 people actually could come up with. So in a typical mastermind meeting that we are running here, and most of the meetings are here in our office because we have a training center here. It's like, Jay, if it's your turn, you got 45 minutes, like share something good. You may be a resource, a book, podcast. Okay, give us an update, because Jay, the last time you were here a quarter ago, you said that you were going to do these 3 things. You were going to fire Susie. You were going to start spending more money over here this morning. Give us a report. Like, what have you done? And if you haven't done it, we're going to maybe beat you up a little bit. And then Jay, you're going to lay your problem. Like, what are you trying to solve? It could be marketing and advertising problem. How do I get more leads? Again, relatively easy even today, I think, to fix that problem. The bigger problems are those of organizational structure. Like, how do I get my team on the same page with me? How do I find great team members? How do I build processes so that I can go and take a vacation and my darn phone isn't ringing every single day because people need to know the answers? We record all of these presentations, Jay, and at the end of the meeting, we give you a 1-pager. Jay, here's what we solved for you. Here's the commitments you made. All right. Here's the three things you said you were going to do. And so when you come back in the next quarter, like, hey, Jay, like, what's going on here? She's still working there. You said you were going to fire her. Boom. And so the mastermind is not just about the generation of ideas, but it's an accountability group, Jay. It's other people who love you, who can use that word. Like, they're not one-on-one competitors, although again, like, we'll let you in even if you're a PI lawyer, because if you're a PI lawyer, Jay, until you and I have 100% of the market here in Northern Virginia, like, there's just more for us both to go and get. That's our view of the world. But you have group that hold each other accountable. And then on the other months, we're not meeting in person, we're meeting on the Zoom, right? Kind of the same format, but a little bit condensed. And then when something good happens to somebody, we celebrate it. Right?
Love
we
it.
celebrate it, right? And so there's it's kind of this whole power of the virtual community. Like, you write something brilliant on LinkedIn, like, we're piling on to say that was awesome and then plus it. So there's all of that. We have some mastermind members who've been with us for over a decade. They have grown with us from struggling law firm to how do I sell this sucker, right? Because I think that's, quote unquote, Jay, one of the new things in legal is really an increased chance that when you're done practicing, that you actually have an asset that someone would want to acquire, right? And will pay you for. And so building, again, systems, people, and processes that will make yourself attractive to a buyer is something that we talk about, at least at our icon level, which is our highest level mastermind group.
So three points I just want to sum up. Number one, if you haven't experienced a mastermind, if you want to be great and you want to be a great entrepreneur, start your own mastermind. You can do it by getting folks together once a month for pizza. And it is awesome. Number two, if you want to learn more about masterminds, Ben was supposed to be on my webinar we did, but at the last minute, you couldn't be there because of a small surgery. But we got Adam Rawson, one of your superstar success stories, who's built, from nothing, and he created the mastermind from a small firm himself and a phone to $5, $6, $7, $10 million. He credits the mastermind. So Adam, Ken Hardison, yep. And we had yet another rockstar. So it's on our YouTube channel, it's on our podcast. You can learn all about masterminds. And number three, I absolutely am a huge fan of masterminds. I'm in an agency mastermind with other agencies, and same experience with you. There's 2 other agencies in my mastermind who are multi-7-figure agencies, and they're also specialized in law. And we share with each other. One of the guys can sell ice to Eskimos, one of the greatest salesperson I've ever met. He gives the 2 of us tips on sales. One of the guys is phenomenal at a particular specialty he does. And those guys are both asking me about the local service ads. So we're all sharing and giving. But like you said, the group, the power of that group, like if you're able to mastermind with Ben, trust me, that's all you need. But then you've got 10 other guys in the room who, if you're not great at HR, if you're not great at accounting, if you're not great at, marketing, there's going to be 3 or 4 other people in your mastermind who can help you solve those problems with real world current experience. So huge fan of the masterminds. make it either, start your own mastermind with a pizza party, or, come to GLM and get hooked up with one of these masterminds. It's phenomenal.
One of the other things you'll appreciate this, is we talk about the agencies, like we talk about you guys. And a lot of that conversation is, all right, I'm having this issue. Who should I talk to? Like, whose phone number or email should I get inside the agency to get stuff done? And so there's a lot of free flow. It's confidential, information, but there's a lot of honest discussion about vendors across the legal space, whether you're looking for an out-of-country employee, a digital marketing company, a radio company, all of these, lots of discussions at that level as well, sir.
So we're down to about 5 minutes. If you're running and commuting and you wanted this to last 20 more minutes, I'm sorry. But real quick, give me your top 2 minutes on EOS, one of my favorite topics, the Entrepreneurial Operating System.
So EOS, we discovered this through the book Traction. EOS is really the way I've described it. You're hiring a business coach to come in to help run quarterly and annual meetings, to teach you the structure of running business operations in your law firm. We were good before this, right? In both of our companies. We got a ton better when we adopted the discipline, Jay, of 90-minute leadership meetings every week. When I first heard that, oh my God, I don't have time for this. Right? But it actually reduces the time that you have to spend hands-on in the business, because you are building structure into the business. That's number one, right? The other thing is, when you have a good leadership team, and one of our challenges was getting the right people on leadership. When you have a good leadership team, Jay, that you can have honest discussion with, hard discussions, bring up issues because you trust each other. I mean, really, really hard, sometimes hard issues that you debate and you decide, but when the meeting is over, you are aligned. That is a superpower, much like the superpower of having other team members who love coming to work for you. I mean, this is not like who can spend the most on advertising. This is who can build an organization that likes to all row in the same direction with you and is willing to row long and hard to make all of you successful.
If you're a business owner or member of the leadership team, EOS has been spectacularly successful for our business as well. But my tip is, don't read Traction. If you're the business owner, read this book, Get a Grip. Also by Neil Wickman. And the difference is, Traction is sometimes hard for the founder, what EOS calls the visionary, to read. It's a more technical book, but Get a Grip is told as a parable, as a case study of actually one of Gino Wickman's first clients. So that's my hot tip there.
I agree with that 100%.
So I got a couple quick one-liners. We've done this on the podcast for like 15 years. So what's one of your favorite apps or techniques for personal productivity?
Time blocking. We talk about that in No BS Time Management. So every event has a start and end time. If I'm writing a brief, start and end time. You'll screw it up at the beginning, but you'll teach your brain how to schedule correctly, and you'll teach your brain how to focus.
Best business books.
Well, Get a Grip is a great business book. I also like Cal Newport's Deep Work. That's an annual reread for me. And almost anything in the No BS series from Kennedy. And I would say this: the No BS Time Management book is the most. It's the book with the highest sales of the No BS series.
Oh, congratulations! That's awesome. What blogs, podcasts, or YouTubes that you subscribe to, and they come into your stream and you immediately switch over to that one?
I love Conrad Sam and Guy Sakalakis on digital marketing. I'd have to almost look at my phone. Obviously, when Brian posts something, I like to hear who he is interviewing. I've got not so much blogs anymore, but it is the guys and gals who are coaching in the legal space that I like to listen to. And then outside of legal, Built to Sell, John Warlick is a great foundational podcast about what we've been talking about here for almost an hour. It's like, how do you build a business that someone would want to acquire? I subscribe to a number of publications. I get a newsletter from Kennedy that isn't publicly available, is hardly ever advertised. And it is like the newsletters I read 20 years ago from Dan. So it's not
When that comes in, you stop everything.
it's not what you get from ClickFunnels or Funnel Hacking Live. This is Dan. Yes. And when that comes, we stop, we open it, and we read it.
Who's your NFL team or soccer team?
So it's interesting, Jay. As you know, you probably know I have refereed soccer for over 50 years. So of course I don't follow football hardly at all. Yeah. DC United, United States national team. But mostly if I'm watching a game, I'm weird. I'm watching the referee team.
I love it.
Yeah. And if you want to go watch some cool stuff on YouTube, there's some programs where you can hear the audio that the referees are talking to the video assistant review room. And here's what you hear. You hear calm, you hear authority. It's really cool. So any of those mic'd up rugby, mic'd up soccer, those are cool videos to go watch. Yeah.
Love it. Last question. Where can people get in touch with you?
So I'm very active on LinkedIn. If you Google Ben Glass, lawyer, referee, sportsmanship, great legal marketing, you'll find me, benglasslaw.com, greatlegalmarketing.com. And I'm happy to, I like talking. I've got a program called Lunch with Ben. So if people go to lunchwithben.com, you can schedule some time with me. I'm going to eat lunch anyway. And the fee for that is you just make sure that the salad gets delivered to my office and we'll chat. It's really easy. But lunchwithben.com has the details on that.
I love it. Ben, thank you so much. This has been really, really great. We could have gone easily 3 hours, and thank you so much for your time. And I hope everyone enjoys.
We're looking forward to seeing you out in October, Jay.
Thank you for listening to the 10 Golden Rules of Internet Marketing for Law Firms podcast. Please send questions and comments to podcast@10goldenrules.com. That is podcast@TENgoldenrules.com.